Always a joy to have you on. I am Pious Kojo Backah. Let's now settle for the details. And ratings agency Fitch has indicated it will assign Ghana a positive rating once the country completes the restructuring of local currency bonds held by pension funds. According to the UK-based firm, it will upgrade Ghana's rating based on a forward-looking assessment of its willingness and capacity to honor its local currency debt. There is more in this report.
Fitch also said it will review Ghana's outlook to a positive one once the country reaches an agreement with private creditors on the restructuring of foreign currency denominated debt and completes the restructuring process following the common framework official creditors claim treatment. It, however, said it would downgrade Ghana in the event of increased risk that the country fails to honor the first coupon payments on these bonds due in August. Fitch's proprietary sovereign rating model assigns Ghana a score equivalent to a rating of CCC plus on the long-term foreign currency IDR scale. However, in accordance with this rating criteria, Fitch's Sovereign Rating Committee has not utilized the SRM and qualitative overlay. Fitch's SRM is the agency's proprietary multiple regression rating model that employs 18 variables based on 3-year centered averages.
Let's explore this further. Joining us via phone is economist Dr. Saheed Boakye for more. Dr. Saheed Boakye, grateful you could join me on Business Live. First off, restructuring the domestic debt is a key requirement for Ghana under the IMF program. Do you hold the view that government can successfully complete this exercise before the next review in September?
Yeah, if I heard the Minister of Finance right, he says both Labour and the fund managers have agreed. And if that's all what is putting it down, if they have agreed, then I think the government can go ahead and do so before September. Yeah. And
do you think government can ask for waivers in the exercise, and what will be the implications, really?
You know, the implication is that all of us are workers, in one way or the other, there will be some haircut. And we may not be able to get everything that we deserve, especially those who are about to go on retirement very soon. In the long term, perhaps if the economy improves, people could recover, those with a longer span time to retirement. But those who are about to go on retirement, there will definitely be some haircut. It is a very sad news. Nevertheless, we have boxed ourselves in such a corner. And if IMF is requiring it, what can we do? Because the alternative is that IMF becomes angry, you don't get a program, or this stops the flow of the funds, and Ghana will be in trouble. We have caused it together, both the political leaders and perhaps the electorates. And so that's the situation we find ourselves in, and we have to swallow the bitter pill.
Now, the debt exchange exercise is expected to give some space for government, basically. Do you think that the space created will be significant enough, really, to open the door for Ghana to go back to the capital market, basically to borrow?
First of all, domestic debt exchange alone is not enough. After all, what triggered the current crisis is exchange rate issues. Due to so much money that is needed, partly due to so much money that is needed to service foreign debt. So external debt, restructuring is also very critical, and we hope that the government can succeed on that. But I think those bondholders externally are looking for the success and completion of all the domestic bond restructuring before they act. If the government is able to do this, then I hope they can begin to act, so that the government can get the needed fiscal space to proceed. But I don't want us to frame the whole issue as ability to go back to the bond market. It is going back to the bond market and borrowing from Eurobond and others that cost us. That, it made us to enter into such a situation. We have to begin to think that we get fiscal space so that you can improve developmental spending, to improve upon the economic development, growth and economic development, not to get the chance to go back to the same bond market that caused us to land us at where we are.
So for you think it's not time yet to consider going to the international market?
I'm saying that is not what you should be thinking, doing anyway. Of course, if in the course of time you have to, you may consider that. But going back to the bond market should not be the reason why we are carrying out this restructuring and trying to get the fiscal space. The fiscal space should be obtained to help us to be able to improve upon developmental spending so that we can enhance an economic growth and development.
I see. Dr. Said Boakye, I would plead with you to hold on as we take a listen, of course, hear from Ken Ofori-Atta talking about turning the corner with the economy. Let's take a listen to him.
So then we look at today and we see where inflation has petered down to 42.5. The past 2 months has ticked up because of inflation, but however, from 54 in December to 42.5 is a clear indication. I think one of the issues for us as Ghanaians, it used to be that we worked very hard to bring inflation down to 7.9%, and people will say, oh, we don't eat inflation, so it doesn't matter. I think suddenly we are all very educated about the need for macro stability as a goal that government has. Then more significantly, we have also seen that the currency has essentially stabilized. And there was a 20% decline in January, and then between February and today, it's about 1.8%. So that's an indication of stability, and there's no rush to the banks for foreign exchange, which is important for us. Certainly, from my peer ministers of the issue of queues and food shortages in their countries, in other African countries, we have been able to avoid that somehow. Okay. So when you look at the totality of that, you then begin to ask, okay, I mean, compared to where we were just as a country and where we are today, clearly I see us turning the corner.
All right, so that's Ken Ofori-Atta justifying what he means by saying we are turning the corner. Now, Dr. Said Boakye, your quick thoughts on that?
Definitely, we have not been able to turn the corner. Not yet. But at least you have to take consolation in the fact that the CD is somewhat stable. But this is largely artificial in the sense that there are now inflows. And secondly, with the IMF being present here, people have some confidence that things will work. So speculative demand for foreign currency has gone down, giving us the breathing space. Effective fiscal management on long-term basis is what is needed. This is just short-term decline, and we cannot begin to celebrate this thing at all. At all. We are not out of the woods yet. But it is good news that at least in the short term, things are stable because IMF is not going to be here forever. And secondly, they are also lending to us, and you will have to pay. So if the minister is talking, I want to hear about long-term policies that the government is putting in place, this government and future government, so that we don't get back to where we are now.
I want us to get into the minds of the finance minister. If what you are telling us anything to go by, that we are not yet out of the woods yet, really, why would the finance minister come out to say that?
Oh, of course, these are short-term signs that you are seeing that things have improved. And of course, any government would like to take advantage of that. And everybody, because what you were witnessing in 2022 was so severe. And if you have had some breathing space, it is a good thing. It's a good thing. Nevertheless, Ghana as a whole cannot celebrate at all. Because even foreign debt restructuring has not been seen yet. And what I also want to remind the government is that you shouldn't put all our hope in debt restructuring. For in the 2000, you got debt forgiveness, debt cancellation, and you have returned to where we were, perhaps even worse than where you were in 2000, 2001. What should be done is that is effective fiscal management from perspective particularly of expenditure. Election is coming in 2024. Because for election, you should not blow the expenditure budget. You should not begin to dash out money as happening in 2020. If this government and future government can begin to educate themselves and say, we are going to effectively manage the fiscal, irrespective of the political atmosphere, then we can begin to be hopeful in the medium to long term. But this IMF is here, something is being put on our wound, and in the short term, it is not paining us before. We cannot celebrate that things are fine. It is just short-term fix. After all, this debt restructuring in both domestically and externally is not debt forgiveness. The government is still going to service it. It is only giving us a short-term breathing space. So you should begin to think in the long haul. How to increase revenue. Effectively. If revenue increase, that can be long-lasting. This is what you should begin to think. And the government should now assure us that, like I said before, we are not going to waste money again. We are not going to bring programs on board just for political purposes. But everything you are bringing on board, it will be thoroughly discussed for us to know the long-term economic benefit, devoid of politics. If we can get these assurances, then we can begin to at least expect the best for the future.
Before you go, Dr. Said Boakye, the Finance Minister once again indicated that government is hopeful of finalizing pension funds restructuring by September this year. Do you think that is feasible from what you said?
It is said that if a blind man says they are going to throw a stone at you, perhaps they are stepping on one. They are in the field. They say they have already spoken to both pension fund managers and workers, and they are agreeing. So let's all be hopeful that they know what they are doing. I don't know the secret. I don't know. I don't have the information they have. So I cannot say otherwise.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Said Boakye, for your time here on Business Life. We really appreciate your insights this very hour. You're still watching Business Life here with me, Pious Kojo Backah. There will be more stories after this break. Hello, welcome back. The Ministry of Finance has expressed optimism its Emergency Expenditure Management Guidelines and Audit Recommendations document would aid in curbing financial infractions within the public institutions. Deputy Minister of Finance, Dr. John Kumah, said the move would aid in providing a proper framework on how the country would ensure fiscal discipline. He was speaking at the official launch of the Emergency Expenditure Management Guidelines and Audit Recommendations implementation and follow-up instructions for public institutions.
Today's occasion forms a crucial step towards providing a means of making government more accountable to the good people of Ghana, so we can be more confident about the future of our country and the management of public resources. The launch of the Emergency Expenditure Management Guidelines and the Audit Recommendations implementation and follow-up instructions for public institutions are designed to provide a clear, transparent framework for how we respond to crisis and uphold fiscal discipline in our public emergencies, as well as improve public accountability. The Emergency Expenditure Management Guidelines were created in response to recent challenges, including the global pandemic that tested the resilience of our country's ability to respond effectively to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic whilst complying to the requirements of the PFM Act. Furthermore, the guidelines present procedures and internal controls that will direct service delivery units on the means to assess, manage, and account for funding during an emergency with efficiency and transparency, whilst ensuring compliance with various requirements of the PFM laws. Crucially, the audit recommendations, implementation, and follow-up instructions for public institutions are anchored on government's firm commitment to ensure strict accountability and transparency in management of public resources.
Now, the Bank of Ghana has stated that it is working to recover the 60 billion cedis loss it incurred in the 2022 financial year as a result of the domestic debt exchange program. According to Director of Financial Stability Services, Dr. Joseph Franz, the central bank has a track record of maintaining and ensuring financial prudence. Hence, the recent loss cannot be used as a measure to question the sanity and credibility of the bank. Speaking to Joy Business on the sidelines of a sensitization program for some officers of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Dr. Franz said the Bank of Ghana remains committed towards ensuring a safe and sound financial system in the country. Here's more. In a bid to deepen fair banking practices in the financial sector, the Bank of Ghana has organized a sensitization program for officers of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority to address pertinent banking issues of financial crimes. Director of Financial Stability Services at the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Joseph Franz, stated that having an in-depth understanding of banking and other financial-related issues will go a long way to enhance consumer confidence in the financial sector.
The investor public needs to know what goes on. And usually, even though we've set up the structures for the institutions to educate the public or to explain their products very well before they get them assessed by the consumers, the central bank, and for that matter, the Bank of Ghana, has taken it upon itself to also do reinforcement by making the public get to know what goes on the market and what is safe for them to do. We take it as a responsibility.
Assistant Commissioner of Customs in charge of technical training, Pious Kojo, said the initiative will provide efficient and effective mechanisms for handling consumer complaints related to the provision of financial services.
As officials of the Ghana Revenue Authority, we hope that by the end of this program, we are likely to appreciate the documents that are presented to us for financial transactions to justify valuation and assessment of duty for commodities that are presented to us in a manner also that we will be able to validate the authenticity of some of those documents and establish the true values, if any, of those transactions.
Meanwhile, the Bank of Ghana has maintained it is taking steps to address the over 60 billion cedis loss it incurred as a result of the DDEP, arguing that will not affect its credibility.
It's a one-off thing. If you look at it, it's not something that is recurring. It's because of the difficulty that we have, and that is basically that. I don't think that this is something that will affect the credibility of the central bank, because it's a one-off transaction, and those are being addressed and have been addressed.
Now, despite the effect of the domestic debt exchange program on consumer confidence, EcoBank Ghana remained the biggest bank in Ghana in 2022 with a market share of 13.58%, according to the 2023 Ghana Banking Survey by accounting and auditing firm PwC. Its market share in terms of banking industry share of deposits was better than 11.93% recorded in 2021. Here is more.
GCB Bank placed second, but lost some market share in terms of the industry's deposits. In 2022, its market share stood at 10.87%, slightly lower than the 11.43% recorded in 2021. From a trend analysis, GCB Bank has been losing its market share since 2017. The third, fourth, and fifth positions were occupied by Stanbic Bank Ghana, Absa Bank Ghana, and Consolidated Bank Ghana. Indeed, Consolidated Bank Ghana improved its position and overtook Fidelity Bank to fifth place from sixth place in 2021, although its total percentage of deposits to the industry deposits decreased in 2022. At the end of 2022, the other banks in the top 10 of industry deposits were Fidelity Bank, Zenith Bank, Stanchart, Access Bank, and Cal Bank. Again, EcoBank Ghana maintained its position as the bank with the biggest loans and advances in the industry last year. Its share of industry loans was 14.7%. Meanwhile, the banking sector saw a jump in deposits growth by more than double the growth recorded in 2021.
You're still watching Business Live here with me, Pious Kojo Backah. Let's move on to one story we are following up for you, which just came in. It has to do with government's dollar bonds, which has been extended. And my colleague, George Yafi, joins me in studio to break it down for us. George, what more is the statement saying?
Well, let's start first with the domestic dollar bonds. It should have ended somewhere around last week, but based on information that is officially coming from the Ministry of Finance, it appears that when it comes to the domestic dollar bonds, it's supposed to now be expiring on Friday, that is 18th of August 2023 at 4 p.m. And if you go through the Ministry of Finance press release, they talk about the government of Ghana's extension of its local US dollar denominated bonds. Now, as part of government of Republic of Ghana efforts to address the country's ongoing crisis. But just to sum it up, this thing should have ended somewhere around last week, but it appears, so these are the new details now. Now, this is going to expire on the 18th of August at 4 p.m. Now, the announcement date will be on the 21st. Okay. So they have to complete it on 18th of August. And now the settlement date, that is those who brought their bonds to exchange for the new bonds, should be done on the 25th of August, 2023. And then you look at the long stop date, that is the 28th of August, 2023. Now, we don't know what is the reason, and we are still going to find out from why this thing also happened. Now, don't forget that there were two papers, separate papers that were issued. One was this local dollar bonds, and then the cocoa bills as well. There is also an update on the cocoa bills that is being spearheaded by Cowbank as a sponsoring more of a broker. So if you go through the statement, they also give us some details as in the new date. Now it is going to expire on 18th of August, 2023 at 4 p.m. And settlement date if, for instance, everyone that is holding these cocoa bills. And just a quick background. I mean, this was a bill that was launched for the commercial banks, but it appears that these banks went ahead to sell to individuals. And that is why this exchange thing is going on. But Pious, it's very interesting that this separate papers that were launched by the Ministry of Finance is being extended. Could it be that they are having some challenges in getting people to exchange their papers? Because previously the understanding was that they've done some thorough engagement with these commercial banks. And therefore they were expecting that most of these banks will come on board by exchanging the papers. Don't forget, as we speak right now, also the pension funds are being restructured. So interesting development, and let's see how things will pan out.
Certainly, George, and we shall keep our eye on that and, of course, keep viewers updated in our subsequent bulletins. That's it for the program for tonight. I am Pious Kojo Backah. Always a pleasure serving you. For more stories, you can log on to myjoyonline.com/business to enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye.